Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had an amazing lunch and you enjoyed the different presentations for so far. My name is David Telman. I'm Chief Relationship Officer at CloudSister, and I'm really honored to organize this interactive panel discussion. But organizing an interactive panel discussion in Belgium is very challenging. Furthermore, we are the last session before the bar, so please assist me a bit. I want to ask if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will come to you. Please state your name, your company, and a question. But to break the ice, I have prepared some questions. First one is for you, Lawrence.
Okay.
Jerry just told me yet that iOS 18 was launched worldwide with the AI capabilities, but not in Europe. And if I look at your presentation, it's like a tsunami of tech regulations in Europe. And don't you think these regulations will hinder the business and the adoption of technology in Europe?
Yeah, well, it's actually a really good question, and it's a concern that is raised by various tech companies that are operating throughout the world. In reality, when it comes to AI, for instance, we see that there is a competitive advantage in the US and in China because they lack the regulatory oversight, the regulatory red tape when it comes to AI. So in the short term, at least for European companies that need to comply with European regulations, we see that there is a substantially higher cost in order to comply with these regulations. But at the end of the day, in the long run, it's a fact that it's an aspect that we call the Brussels effect, meaning that after a while, foreign companies, non-EU companies, will look at the EU for or as a golden standard. We saw that, for instance, with the GDPR. Now, all companies, be it in India, China, whatever, if they want to do business in Europe, they need to comply. So essentially, in the long run, it will create a competitive advantage as opposed to competitive disadvantage. That's at least my take on it.
I can imagine perhaps any questions from the room. I told you it's going to be a challenge. But I have another question. People. Oh, okay. Here you go. Thank you, sir.
Yes, hello. Dennis Koppel, Quality Engineer, Sofico. Question for Brightest and Blythe, just to get an idea. How much effort does it take to implement or build like an AI application? How many people, how many man days? Do you have an idea?
I lost count on the man days, but if you see our AI workforce is 17 people big, but the majorities of those are still working on the customer side as well, implementing the actual AI ecosystem. Now, how fast is it set up for a customer? That can be rather quick in AI terms, so 3 to 6 weeks, and you can already start using it because we have a lot of pre-trained knowledge on there. And yeah, we have something that we call active training as well, meaning that it is connected live to the systems that our customers are using. So then it's being trained every second. So every new knowledge or correction or comment in Jira, for example, it gets there and it gets in that, and that knowledge is quite fast available. Yeah.
I would agree exactly. 3 to 6 weeks for the first demo we showed you with the manuals. But that's a demo. Then you have really to build it. So it has to be scalable, etc. And this requires extra time. But we are not there yet. We now have an internal demo of the manual reading capabilities.
But also the hyperscalers, they have a lot of good applications like Bedrock. That these enables to really develop really quickly applications and start testing. So I think what you should do is grab a use case, start testing, and just doing it. So the ball was rolling. Thank you, sir. Who's next?
I'm a machine supplier. We do sorting machines, and there is so we sort all kind of French fries, potatoes, no matter what. There is a lot of data generated, also by the machine, but also by the product itself. Now we have a lot of questions on who's the owner of that data, and can we as a machine supplier use that data?
That's a very good question. From a data act perspective, you are generating the solution, I presume. So okay. So typically, primarily, you would be the data holder. So the user, your client, will have certain rights because it's the one that is essentially generating the data, but it's generated on your platform, right? So you're legally speaking, under the Data Act, you are the data holder, but you do have obligations to divulge certain data to your client if your client wants to have these data. And that's where typically we see the tension between providers and customers in relation to. It's a product deployed at the customer, but it's essentially your product, right? Yeah, but it's your engine, it's your solution. Yeah. So essentially, in theory, in practice, you are essentially the data holder, right?
Okay, one more. I have some. All right, my dear colleague.
There you go.
Philippe from Cloud Sisters for Brightest. You said when OpenAI released their chat model is that the company's initial reaction was fear, in the sense that it's a threat, or that's how you called it. How did you manage that within the organization to turn the perceived threat into something that eventually you actually embraced the AI and build a solution on top of it to reinforce your position within the market? So you built on top of AI, so to speak, to make yourself stronger rather than the fear that it will put you all out of work because now the AI will take over.
Yeah, it actually started because from the software testing perspective, a big part of the majority of our people's job is to go through user requirements, forms of documentation, and structuring that into structured test cases. So from that perspective, we were really scared when we saw the first versions of generative AI and actually how reasonably good it was, that we thought, okay, this might put us out of business on that area. So we need to shift the people's focus. So how are we going to make AI work for them? That was the first part, and then we crafted the mission to say, okay, we want to revolutionize software testing industry entirely with AI, and not just by offering one capability, but by being really holistic about it in the software testing and QA world. But the most difficult part was, believe it or not, was to getting all our 150 consultants on board, because they were either skeptical about it, like, is it really this good? Aren't you over-exaggerating? I still know how to do my job, and AI doesn't have to tell me to do it. And on the other hand, we needed to play the card by asking our consultants, are you using a form of generative AI in your day-to-day job? And they could do that anonymously, and over 90% said yes. But we said, from a legal perspective, that's no bueno. Na pasará. So we said, okay, we're going to build it in our own ecosystem and enclose it, provide them with a company-wide AI policy about what they can and cannot do, and we ask them kindly to not use GitHub Copilot or to not use ChatGPT, use our Bright Sky ecosystem, where we at least have the legalities covered with all parties involved. So that was one thing, but that is then a Brightest trained instance. If customers want their own Bright Sky instances, we really pre-train them for them, and it's in a closed environment. So, but it was really showing the people what it can do, learn them how to work with it, and now they're all fans. There's nobody working without it, to be honest. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Some more questions? All right, I have one for you, Jerry.
Oui.
Are you ready? You mentioned that the quick ROI is possible, but how can you quantify and prove it?
That's a very good question, David.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can't. No, as I said, we focus really on reducing search time, making sure that less assets are getting lost, make sure that assets are more utilized, and these are things that you can easily quantify. You can tell at the end of the day, so many search requests have been generated on the platform, so many assets, alerts have been generated for assets that appeared in places where they should not appear, etc. So in general, what you see with solutions like ours, the ROE is somewhere between 6 to 12 months.
All right. Good. Doug, are you ready? Yeah. I have one for you. The CDP platforms, what is the innovations in the coming years? What can we expect?
What you're going to see is more usage of the machine learning models that we have, as well as using generative AI to actually help people build use cases.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yes, certainly. So yeah, we are already using AI for years and years, but there is still a lot of space in the to do other things with AI. So we use it to build out smart metrics, insights for the customer. But we currently don't use, and I don't think there is any CDP currently that uses AI for really solving a problem in the marketing space, because it's still a marketeer that needs to define, okay, I have all those insights and now what I'm going to do with it. I can use the tooling and the insights to do recommendation, but there's still a challenge, okay, what campaign should I do? What type of content should I offer? Has it a good ROI, or should I do something else to improve my ROI? And for that, there's a lot of space still and challenges to use AI.
All right, thank you.
The other thing on your point, European companies that are doing business in the US leverage the regulation to our advantage. So the fact we can walk in and people know that we're GDPR certified just raises the bar. It's a competitive different advantage for us. So we view it as a revenue opportunity, not just a burden of cost.
Indeed, especially if you focusing your activities towards a certain sector, right? And you know that you're confronted with a certain investment cost in order to become compliant. If you can amortize the cost over your client portfolio, actually then it becomes a no-brainer to do so, right? Because you're opening so many doors by just having that compliance, by doing that compliance exercise, that actually it will generate additional revenues, and it will also increase the maturity profile of your company in reality, right?
Okay. Scanning. Wait, the bar is open. But Matthias, you're the last one. So what would you recommend as the best technology for starting with AI?
Well, sorry. I think it already popped up a few times today. I think the easiest way starting with AI is with the Gen AI part, because it's easy to start with. You have the models that are there for you. You have even applications that are already in place. So starting with Gen AI is probably the most easiest. But like I told before, looking at the whole picture, I think the best is starting with the business part and not with the technology part.
Okay. I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to say something to my colleagues. Thank you for the amazing ride last month. It was amazing. We're going to enjoy the ride. And furthermore, you are valuable customers, and coming here today, I really appreciate it that you were coming and to attend our first event. We have a present for you as a gratitude. And of course, I would like to have a big applause for our presentations. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, the bar is open, and when you leave, as I mentioned, we have a small attention for you. Thank you.